I'm a sickening wreck. I've got the 21st century breathing.
I'll break down your neck. Notorious conspiracy theorist Alex Jones has been banned by YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and Apple, but he's not leaving Twitter anytime soon. The company's CEO, Jack Dorsey, explained the decision not to ban the InfoWars host in a series of tweets where he said, quote, "We didn't suspend Alex Jones or InfoWars yesterday. We know that's hard for many, but the reason is simple. He hasn't violated our rules. We'll enforce if he does, and we'll continue to promote a healthy conversational environment by ensuring tweets aren't artificially amplified." Oddly enough, all the bans seem to be helping Mr. Jones. Just in the past week, his mobile app has surged from 33rd in the Apple Store all the way up to 3rd place. He made the podium. He claims his financial support has never been stronger, but the debate continues to rage over whether inflammatory hosts like Jones should have a platform at all. It is a tangled mess, but if anyone can sort it out, it is tonight's panel. And we've got attorney and Trump campaign advisory board member Malice, along with former aide to Senator Chuck Schumer. Roll your glasses down your nose and put your hands together for radio talk show host Chris Hahn, and the author of Dear Reader and host of Nightshade. Michael Malice is back. Welcome, everyone. I've been so excited to talk to you about this. Alex Jones makes people mad, and so the Silicon Valley nexus has decided to sort of gang up on him. Is that untoward?
Well, I've been on Alex Jones' show several times. He's the one person on earth I think you can't troll. So it was a great experience in that capacity. But here's the thing. It's not just about Alex Jones. If the people who are asking for his banning have never listened to his show, they can't handle the idea that there's people out there listening to alternative sources of information. And if someone is a conspiracy theorist, which he certainly is, that doesn't mean that nothing they say can therefore be of value. And I just want to point out, if
that's a really good point. And there are people who are fans of his show who may not like everything that he's said or done, and there have been some really stupid things that he's said.
And let's also point out, if they had their druthers, Fox News and Talk Radio wouldn't exist.
Yes.
That was their goal from the beginning. When Rush Limbaugh started, when the Fairness Doctrine was repealed, every day you hear Dana Lash referred to blatantly as a terrorist, that Fox News has blood in their hands. If they had their druthers, alternative sources of communication from the evangelical left would be banned permanently.
Wow. And Al Gore would still have a TV network anyhow.
Yeah.
Go ahead and respond to any of those.
I hear you, but you have a right to free speech. You don't have a right to be on whatever platform you want to be on. Those platforms are privately held companies that have a right to determine what's on it, and they have rules that Alex Jones, probably accepted when he put his stuff out there. So, what are you going to do? Look, I don't think he has anything of value. I think he said some very some things that are dangerous. People have shown up places with guns based on things said by Alex Jones, and I think those companies rightfully are concerned about their own liability with continuing to show his shows. I have used his show on my radio show.
In concealed carry states, people show up with guns everywhere.
And what about the Army?
People have shown up with guns with bad intent.
How do you know?
There have been stories published, widely published. The Pizzagate story, which happened during the election, was widely published. Somebody showed up at the Hoover Dam 2 weeks ago based on a conspiracy theory that him and QAnon were pushing. So I think that having, those outlets want to make sure that they are not promoting things that could cause liability for them, and that's why they pulled them.
The Constitutional Convention was a conspiracy. Harvey Weinstein was a conspiracy. Everyone knew in Hollywood. So the idea that these conspiracies don't exist is a way to dismiss entire subjects that should be subject to scrutiny.
Definitely, but at the same time, I think the bigger issue that we're missing here is the fact that this will be a pivotal moment for free speech when we look at the lawsuits against Alex Jones right now for defamation. Because what it's going to come down to is actually defining in the age of the internet what constitutes a media publication and what constitutes a public figure. He's being sued by the families of Sandy Hook.
What constitutes libel and slander.
Exactly.
And what constitutes a public forum, right? This is the question I want to see resolved in this case. Now, I don't care about Alex Jones, but I want to know, is Twitter and Facebook and YouTube public forums, or are they more like a network, like Fox? Fox could throw us off right now if they wanted to. It's a privately held company. Can they be the same thing?
Such a wonderful feeling of power. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, this whole thing, and I understand there's a big difference between government censorship and people calling for the government to step in and do more, which is essentially what Senator Chris Murphy was doing.
Yes.
But there's also the acceptance of free speech, which is a cultural conversation, not just because it's codified in the First Amendment, but because there is such a fear of living in a place where dangerous ideas might actually harm you.
One of the crown jewels of the progressive movement from the late 19th century was the antitrust idea, which is when you have a free market, you have these monopolies that end up controlling everything. The fact that all these organizations did everything at the same time without coordinating with each other, apparently, and the fact that they have such control over one person's life should be chilling to everybody.
It was a domino effect. Look, Chris Murphy has constituents who have been confronted by viewers of Alex Jones' program saying that, you know, the Newtown massacre was fixed, which it wasn't.
Yeah,
kids died there.
And that is abhorrent.
Right.
And those families have been threatened and had to move, some of them 7 times over some of this.
He's a horrible person. I mean, a deplorable, and he doesn't believe any of it. If you read the court papers from when he got divorced, he says he's a performance artist. He's a performance artist that's inciting
that's his lawyer
violence.
Talking. I mean, come on. You know, the president.
His lawyer speaks for him, though.
The president has also been called deplorable, and there have been many media outlets that said Donald Trump shouldn't have gotten attention during the campaign, even as the nominee. So once again, if they had their way, there'd be entire schools of thought that would be made invisible, just like they were made invisible before the Fairness Doctrine was repealed. Absolutely
right. All right, the panel returns a little bit later. Much more to discuss. And coming up, neither Republicans nor Democrats are feeling particularly victorious after last night's elections. Could a liberty-minded solution put an end to the two-party problem? I will ask WWE superstar and mayor-elect of Knox County, Tennessee. Glenn Jacobs is back, a.k.a. Kane. Stay right here. All right, speaking of regulations, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio and his statist cronies in the city council can't keep their meddling hands off entrepreneurs and the private sector. The latest victim, Uber, the largest privately held company in the world. The city council just voted to cap new licenses over the next 12 months for Uber and other ride-sharing services like Lyft. Experts say that means fewer cars and more expensive rides, and that is the opposite of a free market. And you don't need to live in New York City to know that this is idiotic. The party panel is back. Madison Gessiato, Chris Hahn, and Michael Malice. Chris, I will start with you. Why do liberals think it's a great idea to take something that is working and break it?
Well, I love Uber. Let me start with that. I think it's a great service. I do think it's complicated running a city. And when you've had, you know, when every 20 years or so, a technology comes along that changes things, the order of things. And here in the city of New York, there have been an order with yellow cabs and black car services and other kinds of mass transit. And now Uber has come in and disrupted that order. And the city's trying to figure out, how do we coexist with this new technology?
That's not coexisting. That's trying to shut it down in order to artificially prop up some dying aspects of
They didn't shut it down, but there are people who've made investments in the old order, and now there's a new order coming in here, and the city's got to figure out how to make both work together.
Yeah,
Plus,
they're beholden to the old order. That's the problem. This is cronyism at its finest.
It's also got to deal with the congestion in the city that is also a major problem here that needs to be worked out.
Okay, but this is not dealing with congestion. This is not dealing with the subways, and this is not just a local issue.
Without the government, who will congest the roads? I mean, that's the big question libertarians have to ask themselves.
Without the government, who would build the roads?
The people who will build the stairs, who will build the elevators.
Who would build the roads?
Whoever builds them now.
Nobody built the roads before there was a government to build the roads.
Pigs have roads. They're called hog runs.
Oh.
You want to live like that?
Yeah, I would rather live like a pig than live under this pig's New York City edicts, because he's literally the biggest communist in the world.
Yeah, he's
so
6'7".
The point I would make here is when you have this kind of cartelization, it always hurts poor people the most. It's going to drive up the price. Now, if someone's wealthy and the Uber goes from going $10 to $20, they're not going to care. Yeah. But if someone is poor and using it to make money, it's going to hurt that person, and it's also going to hurt the person who is using Uber. Maybe they don't want to get home drunk, so they're taking that instead of waiting on the subway.
Yeah.
And what's forcing people to do is take the subway, which de Blasio has also made unsafe compared to what it was in a Bloomberg and Giuliani. And this is exactly what happens when you have cartelization. It's government and business working together, which is the worst of all economic phenomena.
It is so frustrating, but the far left has had Uber in its crosshairs for years now.
Well, I think the mistake they're making is thinking they can solve one problem by creating another problem. The last thing we need is more regulation. I know so many people in New York City that rely on Uber to get to work because of the issues with the subway, where it just makes it unfeasible to transport themselves that way anymore. And so I think they're really disappointed, and they won't simply be able to afford a double Uber ride.
But that's
when it was already expensive for them in the first place.
When it's about the government controlling outcomes, Michael is absolutely right. It hurts low-income people the most. You know, there was a time where only fancy people could afford a sedan. But, you know, now anyone can take a $5 via ride, but not for much longer because the city's going to try and force it back to horse
I think
and
it's
buggy.
a great service.
Oh, except for the mayor wants to shut down the horses. They're done.
You know, look, I think it's a great service. It shouldn't be completely unregulated in a city like New York. The city of New York is a very complex place. Cities themselves are complex places.
It is regulated.
It needs to be.
The free market
doesn't need to be over-regulated.
There needs to be some sort of order.
Guy Benson left his computer in a cab by accident and couldn't get it back. If that had been an Uber, he would have known exactly he had to contact the driver.
Order is always a euphemism for dictatorship.
And if there is an outcry from this from the public, which I think there probably will be.
There's an outcry from our sponsors who desperately want to talk to the fine people watching the show. Michael Malice, Chris Hahn, and Madison, thank you so much. Great to see you.